Hi, baddies. Welcome back to another episode of Terra's Baddies Club. I'm so excited today because today is my 34th birthday. Last night I celebrated with some friends at Rogers Gardens, and I just love the farm to table vibe. Also, the salads there are so good. I made myself a Labubu gluten-free low sugar cake. So it was just an amazing time. I'm so thankful for all the wonderful energies surrounding me and all my friends that are in support of my Labubu obsession. I can't even say it right. But I'm just so excited and so thankful. And then I'm working and baking cookies today at my baking job. So I'm just excited for today's guest. I have Liz Toombs. She specializes in sorority houses and decorating them, interior designing, and putting together a great sorority house. So I'm so excited to have her. I also probably mentioned 3 or 4 different times that my mom's an interior designer. So just a little warning about that. My mom's an interior designer. But I'm so excited for this episode, and let's get into it with Liz Toombs. Hi, Liz. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you. I just did your podcast and we connected through a call who many of you guys will know, given that I had Survivor Squad with him. But tell me a little bit about yourself for the folks that don't really know who you are.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on and giving me the opportunity to share my story. I am an interior decorator. I own a company called PDR Interiors, and we have the unique specialty market of focusing on sorority houses. So we travel the country and update sorority houses on college campuses. And we do some residential work as well, but my team is based in Tennessee and Kentucky. I'm the Tennessee part now. I used to be in Kentucky, born and raised Kentucky girl, but that's been a recent change for me. And I host the podcast called Sorority Chat. And like you said, you were just a recent guest and had some really great tips on just some personal safety things and following your intuition as a woman. But the podcast focuses on things relating to sorority housing, but also adjacent topics like leadership and just all the things relating to college women and sorority life in general.
I love it so much. I've never been in a sorority, but I have had a few friends that have been in sororities, and I love their life, their calendar, their little fun events that they
Yep.
do, and then they all look, like a family, like a cool family. And I always tell people that that's probably a really great place to meet like your best friends.
That's a good point. So I always say, if you go to college and you're an athlete, you have that built-in family and that community around you. Another student who's not an athlete doesn't have that. So you have to find ways to fit in. And so for me, going through recruitment and joining a sorority was that opportunity. And that was sort of my home away from home at school. And you're right. I met a lot of really great friends. I never dreamed I would parlay a career out of that involvement, but it's been a great path.
I love that so much. And have you kept up with a lot of those girls today?
I have, yes. There's a lot of them. Obviously, social media makes that easier, just being able to connect with people. But yeah, there's a number of them I still talk to. And I went back a couple years ago now and spoke at IRD. It's called International Reunion Day, and was able to see a number of alums from my chapter and surrounding areas. So that was really cool.
I love that. Do you ever know when you meet someone that used to be in a sorority, is there just like a vibe? Because you see on TV shows sometimes like girls will meet each other and then like I think Legally Blonde. I
Yes,
think of that
yes.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you say that. I went on a vacation with two girlfriends last fall to Greece, and we took a cooking class in Santorini, and it was a fabulous experience. But the point is, when they asked us to go around and say where we were from and what we did for work, and when I shared what I did, the wife said, "Oh, Delta Nu, like Elle Woods." And I was like, Lord help. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Delta New.
Bend and
I
snap,
love it.
friends.
Yes. I mean, I do that all the time, even at the grocery store, drop something, bend and snap.
Yeah, I know. I also reference "You Look Like the 4th of July" and makes me want a hot dog real bad far too often.
I love a good hot dog too.
Same. Yep. Yep.
They're just so good. They're overrated or they're
Mhm.
underrated.
Uh-huh. Also, corn dogs I feel are underrated. Even though I'm
Corn dogs?
gluten-free, I don't get them very often, but I like them when I can.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll also have to make you some gluten-free cookies and send them your way because I go through phases when I'm gluten-free and then not gluten-free. Are you gluten-free all the time?
I am, yeah. I used to kind of cheat and just try it, and then the way I would feel afterwards, it wasn't worthwhile.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I don't know if you have this experience, but I'll look at photos where I'm eating gluten and I'm swollen and I'm thicker
Mhm.
and I just feel not my best. And then
Mhm.
I'll look at photos where I'm not eating gluten, I'm skinnier in the face, I feel like I'm able to talk clearer and just like able to have more energy.
Mhm. I have not done that, but now I'm going to. I'm gonna go back and look at photos from years ago because, I mean, it's inflammation that it's usually causing in you, so all of that would make sense, the puffiness and sort of just not feeling great.
I love that. So, yes, no, definitely go look at those
Yeah,
photos,
I will, it'll
you
be
know,
interesting.
tell me later, text
Mhm.
me later, be like,
Mhm.
"Yes, I realize it." But I think that there's also going back to your design, I want to get a little bit more into that. So, what would you say every designer has their style? And I know this from my mom being an interior designer
Yeah.
and probably over like 50 years now. And I wasn't a lot, sorry, my dog. I wasn't alive that time, but I've been alive for 30 years of that, 33 years of that. And she would always tell me, oh, it's contemporary, oh, it's traditional, it's this. And then we would always go walk into a room. I don't know if you do this. And you're like, oh, it's too yellow, it's too pink.
Yeah, you probably picked up a lot of that from her, right? All the design eye and noticing. I probably don't describe my style in that way because I think it's more industry jargon. And so the average person may not understand what contemporary means or traditional. So I would describe myself as I don't like clutter. So I tend to choose clean lines for like the furniture silhouettes. I accessorize, but in a very intentional way. It's not over the top, overdone, but I want it to be cozy and comfortable. And so in my personal home, a lot of what you'll see around in the artwork or the accessories are things I pick up on vacation or travels or they're gifts from people. So there's usually like a story behind them because I just love the story side of things. And so I try to do that in my work as well, whether it's someone's home or within the sorority house. And, there's a lot of history that could be displayed in the sorority house. And I'm often having to create environments that foster camaraderie. And so there's that comfort, and we don't need to help them create clutter. So it's a very edited, accessorizing side of things because the college women come in with all their book bags and water bottles and all the things, and the place fills up quick.
Love that. I love that you focus on decluttering. I feel like I've watched so many shows on that, but I
Mhm.
don't know how to do it myself.
It's just mentally for me, it's like it's mind clutter too. I don't like having messes. I'm relatively organized. I'm sure there's something behind that.
Are you one of those friends that goes over to someone else's house and starts organizing stuff?
No, but I would probably like to for some of them, but no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't want to hurt someone's feelings.
Well, I would say you could come over here and do that. Like, I just need someone organized, but I think it's great. What are some great tips that you have for like putting together like a more organizational like front room? What are some tips you can give to someone to make their house a little bit more organized, say more so like the family area or like the front room where you come in? Is there like any like do you just like to go do like some bins here and there? Is there like kind of like a start that you start at for that?
I ask a lot of questions about lifestyle and needs really before I start spouting suggestions because I could tell you all day long to use some sort of color coded system or bin system. But if that doesn't jive for you and like your brain doesn't work that way or you're never going to use it, it's completely futile. And so you might as well just light those dollars on fire as opposed to buying the products. So I would say, like, understand your lifestyle first. Are you a front door family? Like, are you coming in the front door? Are you coming in from the garage, a side door? Where does your drop zone need to be? and what are the things that you have that you're typically dropping off. Is it a purse, keys, shoes, so on? You have to figure out how many folks are involved in the household and all of that, and then create a space that makes sense for that. If you're someone like me who doesn't want to visually see the clutter, then perhaps it is baskets to put shoes in. Maybe it is creating a little mudroom type closet where you can close some cabinet doors and all the coats can be behind that. If you're somebody that's like, nope, I just want access to my stuff when I need it, then, you can put some hooks on the wall for those coats in your purse and your keys and so on. So I think you really have to kind of tap into what works for you and what space is available where you live. Because if you own your home, you can do a little bit more than if you're renting. And so if you're renting, you want to make sure what you're putting in is very portable and mobile so it can go with you, or you can relocate it within your current space.
Okay. Is there any companies that you like that have great like couches that have storage in them, or just like great tables that have storage in them? What's your go-to place to like find furniture to manage storage?
That's a really good question. So years ago, I was a lake girl and I had a houseboat. And if you know anything about houseboats, you're really short on storage. So are you familiar with the brand Lovesac furniture?
Yes, love
Okay.
them.
Same. I love the modular capability. It was great for getting it to the boat. And then we made sure that I put like an ottoman. So it
Okay.
created a chaise and you could lift up the ottoman and there was storage inside. So that happened to be where I put throw blankets for the living room. But anytime you can have like an ottoman or a coffee table or something that has storage, you have the opportunity to be able to put away things that you don't need out all the time but you want to have access to. So love Sack. As far as tables, that's kind of a mixed bag. I mean, there's some great brands on Wayfair. I know Wayfair can get a bad rap, but if the manufacturer is good, you're in the right spot. Bassett is another really great brand. The storage side of things is hit or miss with them, but those are the ones that come to mind first.
Okay, yeah, I've definitely had a lot of Bassett catalogs throughout my life. Stanley Furniture.
Yes.
And then one of my girlfriends, Kristen Hathaway, Hathcock, she worked for Stanley Furniture and she was having a deal with them at one point. And then also Uttermost.
Yes, Uttermost is great.
Yes, I have a great mirrored piece by them, and it's just fabulous. It weighs a ton, but it's just like the great staple piece in like my house,
Yeah. Yep.
And then like I try to throw in like different pinks and grays and like try to stick with that tone of vibe.
Yeah.
But then this is probably your designer eye is like, oh my God. And then I just like mirrored furniture too.
Yeah, well, it reflects the light, so it creates like a brighter, happier space, and it can make a space feel larger. So I too am a fan of mirrored pieces. I have a really large square mirrored coffee table in my living room that the dog sometimes will stare at himself in, and that's been entertaining.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And what kind of dog do you have again? I know we talked about him earlier.
Yes, he's a Yorkie poo, and he looks predominantly Yorkie, but he kind of has the long legs of a poodle, but he weighs a whopping 8 pounds.
Oh my gosh, so cute. I love dogs so much.
Yeah, me too.
I love it. Now that we went over the design stuff of things, let's get into your podcast.
Yeah, sure. What do you want to know?
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about like some of your guests that come on. I know we talked about how it's sorority based and like really like college based for the girls out there.
Yeah.
But I feel like you've had on so many interesting guests lately.
Yeah, thank you. I try to cover like a variety of topics, and they're all topics that are interesting to me and I think that appeal to the audience as well. So, like I said earlier, it could be about sorority housing, so it may be a contractor or an architect, or we're talking about maintaining the house and what you need to do, because if you're not familiar with sorority life, these houses they need to be managed and maintained, and it's a group living space, and so sometimes it's local volunteers like alumni that are running it, and sometimes it's managed from a national level. And so the goal of the podcast is to provide them information and let them know what's out there. So we have the housing piece of it, and then I'm a really big nerd about leadership and soft skills. I taught a class at UK on soft skills sales a couple years ago. And when you were on my podcast, you were talking about having difficult conversations with friends. We had an entire module on having difficult conversations in the workplace that I had with these students, because in this age where we're just texting or emailing everyone, nobody knows how to talk to each other and be a little bit uncomfortable in their feelings. So that was super important. So I'm always like on my soapbox about that with the podcast. I've got some folks that talk about leadership. Mental health is a huge conversation within this space. You know, we've got students that are coming into these houses to live. They've moved away from their parents. They're trying to navigate life on their own. Lord knows what comes up along the way. And so we're trying to create my team as a haven for them. And so mental health is just a constant conversation that we weave through the podcast as well. And that seems to really resonate with folks.
I love that. I love that so much because I think that you need to really talk about mental health. And it's like, it's a thing that we didn't talk about when
No.
we were in school or anything. And that really sucks.
It was like made to be a negative thing or something of weakness, like if you talked about stuff or if you went to therapy. And now I think it's starting to swing the other way, and people are more comfortable talking about it and they understand that all of those things are really positive.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I was even just having Mitzi Martin, she's a model on, and her daughter is getting into modeling. And she was talking about how, oh, it's so different from when I was modeling because, like, we didn't talk about mental health at all. And then now it's all about mental health. It's all about, like, being like woke as a kid and stuff. And I love the woke kids. I love the kids that are like, oh no, you can't say that word. Oh no, you can't say that. And I'm like, okay, please tell me why. I would like to be more informed.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think we're just the generation coming up, they're just more in tune with their feelings and with others, and I think that's a really positive thing.
I love that. And then do you like, I know you do the sorority houses. Do you do anything else with that? Do you do any like, do you manage any houses or anything?
I don't. No, I'm
Okay.
an alum of Alpha Gamma Delta. I don't do any sort of like volunteer house management on that front. I get involved more on the leadership side of things, and I do a lot of mentoring through my business. And so that's sort of like my side passion and the way that like I get my cup filled in that regard.
Okay. So you mentor sorority girls?
I do, and college students in general.
Okay.
I mean, you probably know with your mom having been in the industry, I think sometimes folks don't know what they're getting into. They just think it's glamorous. I want to be a designer, and like, no, we have to talk more about what goes on in the background and the logistics of running a business. And I felt like as a college student, I should have done more internships or tried to gain more experience. I like worked as a babysitter, I worked in retail. I didn't really get out there and sample the job I believed that I wanted. Turns out it's okay. Like I was right. I went on the right path, but that's not always the case. And so if
Yeah.
you are in college, or even if you're not in college and you're trying to go towards a career, I am always open to like, what are your questions? What can I do to help you? Whether it's about design or running a business or whatever the case may be. And so I've always offered internships. I offer shadowing days, even if somebody's just like, can I grab coffee with you? If we're not in the same like geographical area, we'll just get on Zoom, because I think it's invaluable to try to like help the next generation coming up and give them any kind of boost you can give them.
I love that so much because I feel, especially working as a daughter, as an interior designer, you need to run them pillow shams. They make you install homes.
I've pulled in some nieces before too, so I get it. You take all the help you can get.
Yes. And then my sister, well, one of my sisters, Nicole, who like has the business now, she runs they do model homes though.
Nice. Uh-huh.
And like the amount of times that she's cut her finger and had to go get stitches over ripping off tags and then just hitting the glass, and then so it's like it's dangerous.
It is. And like sometimes by the end of the day, you're really dirty, you're sweaty. Like it's not this like glitz and glam, right? The end result is fabulous, but you as the worker are kind of schlepping around.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then you're painting stuff, you're getting things done last minute. You're like, I need to fill in that hole. I need to run to Home Goods now because now I need to go get some fillers for that.
I think that's why HGTV is hit or miss for me. Like sometimes it's triggering and I'm like, I gotta step away. This is too real for me.
Well, what's funny too is like literally my mom's worked for the Property Brothers before
Yeah.
and she did the work for them. So they're not doing that. They're not,
They're hosts. They're
yeah.
like they're the stars, I guess, and then there's everybody else doing stuff.
Yeah, but I love like being an interior designer is a gritty job
Hmm.
and I'm happy that offer your expertise to young girls because I have tried so many different careers and I've just been like this isn't for me or this isn't for me or something happens that throws me down a different life path.
Mhm, mhm. Which, I mean, I think that's possible anyway, right? I think we're conditioned to think you go towards a certain career, you start it, you have to finish it. And I love it. My business coach, who's also an interior designer, she says, like, no, I mean, you can reinvent yourself and change as much as you want. And who cares if you stop something and pick up something new? Like, it's your life. So we kind of have to get over that whole like going down the one path forever and always.
Yes, no, 100%. And then, so you say you do residential sometimes. What is the difference to you with doing residential and doing sorority houses?
Well, residential, I'm dealing with one isolated family or individual or couple, right? So there's some very specific preferences overall. When you're doing a sorority house, there are some general preferences, like as far as the brand of the organization and some things that you try to pull in, whether it's like a certain color palette or emblems, things like that. And then it's sort of like, there's a lot of folks involved. So, how do you marry what alumni like with what students like, keeping in mind that these students turn over every 4 years? You have to look at what's competitive on campus because that's part of the whole recruitment process, like it or not, is the house and that backdrop. And so there's a lot more involved in it. And it can kind of be death by committee if you don't understand how to pull out the right information and figure out who the decision makers are and what they want. That's a
Okay.
little bit easier to do residentially.
So can you explain like what a sorority is and like is there like a hierarchy? Is there like for someone that hasn't been a part of
Yeah.
it because I'm just so curious.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a really good question. It's an organization of like-minded people. And so there's a philanthropic component where they have, some kind of philanthropy or charity that they support. And so then they're putting on events and raising money and they're volunteering. So you're fostering the young woman in terms of giving back to her community. And then there's some leadership side of things. You can hold roles on an executive board, which is leading the chapter in different ways, managing recruitment, where the events where you're having potential new members come in. So there's that leadership component. And then it's a place to have camaraderie, specifically during your college years. And then it really flows beyond that. So I think that's probably the simplest way that I would explain it. And then you see in movies and in TV, your kind of stereotypical housing and some campuses have that, other campuses don't have that. Some have smaller facilities, or some don't have a facility at all. But still, the organizations exist and they get together and they meet. And it's a really nice place to plug in during your college years.
Okay. And then I know also there's different levels of sororities as well. Like some take it to extremes, like the Bama show. Like
Yep.
I know they're like, doing like the what do I wear? What is it? The
OOTD,
yes,
Bama
yes,
Rush Talk. Yep.
yes. And they're like, oh, hair, this shirt,
Yep.
this Chanel, this Versace. Well, not Versace. I don't feel like they're Versace girls. I feel like they're like Ann Taylor. That's a little too old. But like more, I
Yeah.
don't know. What's the word? A little bit more Chanel,
Yeah. I hear
you
you.
know? And Tory Burch. Tory Burch is like a big one, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tory Burch style. And then like the sororities in Irvine and Santa Barbara and stuff are a little bit different.
So I think it's somewhat of a regional thing. So having
Okay.
worked in, like, we've worked on over 100 campuses, my team and I. So we have seen a variety of facilities, and then there's different campus cultures. So you think about it, California probably has a more laid back vibe than some of like the deep South states. And so the schools and then the organizations sort of follow suit. So not everything that you see at Bama is what's happening elsewhere. And, you know, like sororities at Cornell could be very different than sororities at Arkansas. And so naturally, like if you're gravitating towards a certain college, you know, you're going to end up finding groups within that college that you align with and you want to plug in with. But yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. I think it's been kind of an anthropological study for me to go to these different campuses and just kind of get the vibe and see what the culture is. And it's been a cool part of the work.
What was the culture like of your sorority in college?
Well, that's a good question. So I went to Kentucky,
Okay.
which is in the SEC. Some people will argue Kentucky, the state, is not Southern. I would say it is, but that's a whole other conversation. We had a really interesting mix. Like, we had some very artsy girls. We had some folks that were like big time campus leaders. I was somebody that probably fell in the middle. Like, now I've developed my leadership skills more, but Tara, I would not public speak until I graduated from college. And like, I
Okay.
avoided taking a public speaking class until my last semester because I was praying they would make it no longer like a prerequisite
Mandatory.
to, yeah, I was like, Lord, I don't want to do this. I do not want to speak in front of people. Like, I was just getting really clammy. And now, like, I get on stuff like this and won't shut up. So I say that like I was just kind of a different person in college and sort of trying to find my way. And so I think our organization was sort of a mix of different women, but I found somebody that I met during recruitment, Laura, that we really connected, and she was a big draw for me to join that sorority. And we were roommates through college and have been really good friends and still stay in touch. And that was the really big benefit for me.
I love that. Did you have to like wear all the designer stuff?
No, that
No.
has been a more recent thing. So
Okay.
that's something else I think is super interesting with TikTok and specifically Bama Rush Talk. The world is now watching sorority life, and so there's this maturity that has occurred within organizations and housing and all of this because everyone is so fascinated by it. But no, we were not designer people at all. Like, I was in college in 2001 through 2005, and like I would just say you dress normal. Like, maybe some people had
Okay.
designer stuff, but it was not this need to have. And so I will say not every campus is that way. It's just the way it can sometimes be portrayed online.
Yeah, on TV, like definitely you see like the mean girls and then the
Yeah.
girl that's like the bitch that is like has daddy's money.
Yes. And so I'll say that too. Much like a lot of television will sort of take a small component of something and then like
Okay.
really blow it up. I definitely think that's the case with Greek life too. And some people don't like Greek life. They want to claim it's elitist or exclusive. And I have the opposite perspective. Like, you kind of get in where you fit in, and you know, you connect with certain people, and it's just like the rest of life. Like, you can't necessarily be friends with everyone, and you're not going to always have everything in common with anyone that you meet, but when you find your folks, then you connect and you go from there. And of course there's been some bad apples along the way, and I think that's kind of what media focuses on, but I'd
Yeah.
say the bulk of it is mostly positive experiences.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Like I think media focuses on the exploitation of everything, even with
Mhm.
like true crime in a sense.
Yeah.
It's I know that from experience,
Uh-huh. Yeah, you
you
definitely know
know.
that.
Yeah. So, I think a big thing that we just mentioned is navigating even those relationships as well. But I feel like those relationships even lead you into navigating just life. And then can we talk about how you moved recently and then how you're adapting, like from what you learned even in sororities, making friends, and then adapting that into moving now?
Yeah, so about a year ago, it'll be a year in June, I moved from Lexington, Kentucky to Martin, Tennessee. I'd been dating someone that lives here. My job is remote, so I was the one that could pick up, and so we said let's see how it goes. And so, I'm 42, so that was semi terrifying to be in your 40s and just going to somewhere that you've never lived before, but I was like, let's see, it'll be fine. And I think I'm fortunate because now we are such a digitally connected society. And so there's so many ways that I'm able to stay connected with the community that I had in Lexington, but then also still go out and meet more folks here. Because it can be very isolating when you move somewhere that you really don't know anyone or you know one other person. So I've been doing a lot of a friend of mine, she was a former neighbor. We do a walk and talk on Saturday mornings and we put our AirPods in and I walk up to the coffee shop and get my tea and we get our exercise and we just chit chat and kind of catch up for the week. And that is so fun to still have that connection. Folks are coming and visiting me, but I've always been a really big networker in terms of like my business. And so I've just really leaned back into that too. And part of that occurs with the podcast, just meeting people and getting to talk to people and have that connection. And so those are the kinds of things I've been focusing on, is just where can I connect with people so that I do have that community and it's not a lonely feeling. And I think it's been going pretty well.
I love that. Well, that sounds great. I also love the walk and talk. Like, I kind of want to do that because there's so many friends that live so far away.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, how can I connect and pretend like we're walking together like we used to?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is she and I used to exercise together. And so it was like, oh man, we're not going to be able to do that. And so then this has just become a routine. And then I have another group of friends. We call each other the board of directors. We do our Wednesday waffle and send like our weekly life update. And that has been really fun too, rather than just talking through a text message, just getting to see everybody's face and hear them tell about what's going on with them. And now we end up probably sending way more videos back and forth than anybody really wants to deal with. But it's been great.
I love that. Have you tried the Marco Polo app?
No, the idea of another app just wears me out. Is it worthwhile?
Honestly, same, but that's like how my sister like will send videos to her friends.
Okay.
And she's like, Terra, you need to try it. But I'm like, also, do I need another app? I have so many.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I'm the like crotchety old person that's like, I don't need that. But I guess maybe I'll give it a try then, since you kind of give it she gives it a stamp of approval.
I haven't given it a try, so you be giving it a try and letting me know. That's why I've asked.
Yeah. No, but like also, wouldn't you need your friends to also be on it so that you could send them stuff?
Yes. I guess
that's going to be the harder sell, I think, is getting everybody else involved.
Yeah, it's like, hey, let's just join this other app, even though we could send it on the phone either way. Yeah. So is there anything that, I know you said you're a social person, you like networking. Do you try to find certain networking events to try to go to in your area?
I don't. So when I first started my business, I did a lot of local networking in Lexington. And then as the business really shifted to focus on sorority and my projects became national, I kind of shifted the networking focus to more of a national level. So I don't do a ton locally anymore. And also what I'm finding is I am social, but I also really like my quiet time and my time alone and recharging. And so I'm just sort of letting that happen and be the case as I need it.
I love that. I am a recharger as well. Like, I cannot be around too many people. Otherwise, just like need. And then there's certain people you be around with and like recharge from their energy, you know? But a total like space afterwards. So like this, like, do you feel like this has been like your life? I feel like you have a relationship, it's going well, and just, and then you have your business. You seem like at a really good place.
Well, thank you. I feel like I am. I know I've found myself saying several times over the past few months, like I haven't felt this like creatively excited in a while. And so I can definitely see that there's a lot of positive energy coming off of my general circumstances right now.
Yeah, no, I'm like, you inspire me now because I'm just like, wow, like your social media, and you were talking about like how you've had help with that and like redoing that. And I just like, I see people doing, well, especially women, like I'm a women supporter, and I see them rebuilding or just building. And I'm just like, wow, I want to be like them. I want to have an established business. I just want to have it together.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I have it together, but like, it's always a battle for that. But yeah, I mean, there's something cool about looking back at the last 16 years and seeing where the business was when I started, where it is now, all the things that I've learned and like how it's evolved and just the teams that have been involved along the way.
I love that so much. Well, I feel like that's the perfect note to end on before we get into the Patreon. And where can people check out your business? Where can people follow you? Where can people support your podcast?
Yeah. So the business is pdr-interiors.com. That's the website. We're about to get a whole new look in a couple of months. Then you can find PDR on Instagram and TikTok. And the podcast is Sorority Chat, and it's available on all podcast platforms.
Well, thank you. And we'll continue on to the next segment where we're going to talk about your relationships now and making it work and, doing all that fun thing in Nashville or not Nashville. I always want to just call Tennessee Nashville.
That's okay. You're not alone. But yes, let's go.
Yes, sweet. All right, let's continue on. Thank you for listening to this episode of Terra's Baddies Club with Liz Toombs. If you like this episode, please give us 5 stars on Apple or Spotify or wherever you're listening. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. I love to hear your feedback. But until next time, I'm Terra Newell, and thank you so much for listening.